Thank you for returning to our video. Your love and support have meant the world to us, and we are eternally grateful. Hence, let us go on. On those rare occasions when you feel like giving up, have you ever tried everything? The remainder of your day is marred by your tardy awakening. It happens to everyone sometimes. What if, however, you are unable to overcome your own obstacles, regardless of how much you strive? The likelihood that you are sabotaging yourself increases if you discover that days like that occur frequently. Destroying your own chances of success is more than just an innocuous side effect of having poor self-esteem. Your relationships, health, money, and profession can all take a major hit if you engage in self-sabotage. Here are 7 telltale symptoms of self-sabotage that you should be aware of. You have a tendency to be overly critical of oneself. Is self-criticism and self-deprecation second nature to you? Is it easier for you to dwell on past failures or to move on from them? Being overly meticulous could be hurting you if you recognize any of these signs. Many people who suffer from self-centered perfectionism never feel good enough because they believe they must always be perfect. This is due to the fact that achieving perfection is frequently an unattainable ideal. As expected, poor self-esteem and increased emotions of failure result from living with the persistent fear that one does not measure up. You can't move forward with anything useful because you're too afraid to make a mistake. Negative effects on mental health, such as anxiety, despair, isolation, and powerlessness, can also arise from being too hard on oneself. 2. You're always finding fault. Are you the type to meticulously analyze a situation until you uncover every imperfection? When your intentions come to fruition, are you taken aback? If you recognize this, it's possible that your negative attitude is hurting your relationships. Negativity has negative effects on your health, in addition to destroying your goals and relationships. Pankalainen discovered that compared to neutral or optimistic participants, those who characterized themselves as pessimistic had a 2.2-fold increased risk of dying from coronary heart disease. Lastly, you procrastinate until the very end. Writing a paper the night before is your regular routine, and you probably feel the same way about putting off holiday preparations until the last minute. When you're feeling fatigued, mentally exhausted, stressed, or simply lazy, it's tempting to put things off until the last minute or procrastinate. Sometimes it's natural to want to avoid doing something because you simply don't feel like it. Nevertheless, if you consistently give in to that meh emotion, it can hinder your progress in all aspects of your life. No matter what you do, from education to work, you wind up disappointed. Those who say they procrastinate frequently are more likely to suffer from anxiety and stress, according to the research. Depression is more common in this group as well. Plus, you have no plan. When disorder becomes the norm, what then? Does your tardiness or failure to meet deadlines occur frequently? You may be sabotaging yourself in more ways than one if you feel like your life is in a state of constant chaos. It brings down your sense of self-worth. On top of that, you end up without necessities and items you desire. Anxieties, despair, and emotional eating are all symptoms of the powerlessness that accompanies disorganization. According to studies, people experience stress and discomfort when there is an excessive amount of disorder and clutter. The stress hormone cortisol was more prevalent in people whose homes they described as being overly cluttered. Chronic inflammation and elevated blood sugar have been associated with prolonged elevations of cortisol levels. You feel like a fake, which brings us to number 5. Can you confidently say that you have no idea what you're capable of? To what extent do you struggle to acknowledge your own achievements? Imposter syndrome could be the explanation if that's the case. Serious self-sabotage might result from feeling like a fake. You may not reach out to people because you believe nobody cares about what you have to say. Or you may not pursue opportunities for advancement, positions, relationships, or employment that you desire. Feeling like people are simply putting up with you, you rarely stand up for yourself or respect your limits, opting instead to play it down when others wrong you. Sixth, you do too much. It turns out that being overly active and involved all the time can be stressful for your mental health. When you take on too much, you end up sabotaging yourself in many ways. If you take on too much, you can find that you end yourself unable to complete any of your tasks. Overcommitment makes it hard to stand up for what you want or establish appropriate boundaries because of the guilt and obligation that comes with it. Overcommitting makes you more likely to put other people's needs before your own, which in turn increases your stress levels. Being overly committed makes you vulnerable to the continual pressure to accomplish more and offer more. And finally, you're exhausted. Is it true that you've been forgetful recently? Perhaps you've been more careless than normal on the job. Psychiatrists refer to a condition where one is perpetually worn out and stressed out as burnout. Experiencing burnout is like attempting to drive a car without oil, constantly stomping over damp concrete. Serious self-sabotage, including mental and physical disorders, marital problems, and financial hardships, can result from the chronic stress and weariness caused by burnout. It becomes a bodily sensation of terror. Is the commute to physics class or work a source of difficulties for you? The strange bodily symptoms you're experiencing, such as headaches, stomach aches, indigestion, and so on. You should probably slow down and assess the amount of work you're putting into it. They might be having second thoughts. These are all common human emotions, ideas, and actions, and I bet most of you can connect to at least a few of them. But if you find that you tend to exhibit any of these traits on a regular basis, you should ask yourself why you let yourself be held back. You are valuable regardless of the approach you take to overcome self-sabotage. Is there one that you can identify with? I can certainly relate to them. Post a comment telling us. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video if you think it could be helpful to someone else. Right now, why don't we return to the video? Your self-defeating thinking persists. A self-defeating outlook is one of your traits. Feelings like, I can't do this, or I'm not qualified for this, are common. Are these things that go through your mind every time you're about to do anything? When your self-esteem is constantly whirled around by negative thoughts on yourself or your relationships, you are suffering from a self-defeating mindset. No one but you is responsible for developing a self-defeating perspective, which prevents you from reaching your full potential and can lead to damaging habits. Emotional hiding is your default. 2. You try to keep your feelings buried. When you try to suppress your feelings, you end up ignoring all of them, good and bad. This causes you to artificially inflate your emotional condition, which in turn causes problems with your mental and physical health, which put extra strain on your body. You can experience a dramatic emotional breakdown. Dealing with traumatic events, such as the loss of a loved one, is likely the root cause of all of this. The anguish of loss makes you feel like it would be better if you could block off all emotions. The accumulation of these feelings over time makes them more dangerous when they explode in a tantrum. You don't do anything. Thirdly, you do nothing. Instead of getting a job, do you spend too much time playing video games? Is it the case that you think it's pointless to even try? Not doing anything at all is like inviting failure upon yourself. You run the danger of losing chances at relationships, employment, and other exciting risk-taking prospects. This style of thinking and action can become deeply ingrained and prevent you from ever achieving your dreams. You persist in contriving to be incompetent. Fourth, you insist on acting incompetently under duress. Is it dishonest of you to tell yourself things like, "I'm just not good at math," and then do nothing to improve your understanding of the concepts covered in math class? If you think you lack an inherent skill for anything, you may adopt a mindset of forced ineptitude and refuse to put in the effort to study and practice. When you doubt your own talents, this kind of thinking can help you cope. Ignoring new experiences and expanding your horizons is a surefire way to fail when you adopt this attitude. You seem to be quite lonely. Fifth, you prefer to spend your time alone. Are people you care about no longer interested in spending time with you? Were you insulting and trying to start a fight? Alternatively, they may have given up trying to contact you after you have turned down their calls, texts, and social invites. Choosing to withdraw from loved ones, whether consciously or unconsciously, is possible. If you believe that everyone would be better off if they avoided you, you can feel that you're helping the world. When you let your relationships suffer and let your anxiety and depression fester, you end up hurting not only yourself, but also the people closest to you. You are being excessively selfless. Sixth, you are giving too much of yourself away. Have you become so preoccupied with the happiness of other people that you have neglected your own pursuits of joy? Being self-sacrificial can be more harmful than helpful. It makes you feel good, and you may even fool yourself into thinking you're doing the right thing. Perhaps your parents' desires for you to have a certain type of career path were the deciding factor in your decision to pursue that path. But since you never gave it your all, it has now left you emotionally and physically drained. 7. Substance addiction is an issue for you. You struggle with substance misuse and alcoholism. People who are unhappy tend to abuse substances more frequently. You may be trying to escape from your problems by turning to these substances. As time passes, the world around you continues to move forward, and you will inevitably fall further and further behind, eventually finding yourself in an even more precarious position. The vicious cycle it might become can have serious consequences for your emotional and physical well-being. Can you identify with any of these routines? We pray that you were able to identify some harmful patterns of behavior after seeing this movie. All of us are susceptible to these kinds of actions, therefore it's crucial that we learn to recognize them when we see them. It is crucial to address these undesirable practices. Please consider giving this video a like and sharing it if you found it helpful and believe it could be of use to someone else. The description below includes a list of the studies and references that were used. If you want to see more videos from Self Unlimited, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications. Until next time, we appreciate you tuning in.